Old style.
You think I can get out of here by then? Yeah,
Be
right.
halfway there, eh?
Listen, I just make one upstairs, right? I was any of 4:50.
You said that.
I would like to
Alright,
do
7:05, no.
Yeah.
it. No, huh? Come on. You want it? There's none.
I'm going to call the April 14, 2016 meeting of the Boston Town Council to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have an email from the Secretary of State's open meeting website indicating that this meeting was posted on April 12th at 5:35 PM. So we are in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. And I have one announcement to bring to everyone's attention. You might have seen the advertisement in the Foster Home Journal. The town's having an Earth Day coming up on Saturday, April 23rd, from 8 o'clock to 1 in the afternoon at the DPW yard. And they're collecting all types of hazardous waste, e-waste, mattresses, bulbs, gasoline, chemicals, propane tanks, so many different things.
But not tires.
But not tires, it's the one thing that they're not taking this year.
And that will be the last time you can get rid of mattresses without the town having a very heavy fee, so.
Okay. That sounds
So,
good.
so if you have anything around, take advantage of it. It is in the Foster Home Journal, but I'll leave this here in case anyone wants to take a look at it. And this is the last council meeting before that event, so. No one signed in for public comment. Minutes from March 10th.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from March 10th as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, sorry.
Okay? Call.
The grant, and I'm not sure if I can even ask it, but I was just wondering what the status is of the grant you were going to be writing for recreation acquisition development. It's not due until May 27th.
Not due till
but I
May
didn't know.
27th. What I'm awaiting a number from Crossman Engineering, projected cost for the development of phase one. I want to write a grant that's based on a reasonable number, so the engineer is going to give an estimate, and that's the end of the goal.
Okay. I have another question.
Yes?
There was discussion on that night about a letters of support for the Situate Watershed Community Assistance,
Yes.
and it was going to be reviewed by the solicitor prior to your signing it. I was wondering what the status is of that.
Yes, she reviewed it, and I signed off on it, and it's been sent.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I think so, I just have to read my thing. For the requiring financial statements and policies and procedures for non-town entities,
Yes.
and that was going to be Kelly and Mrs. Bevelacqua were going to work together on this
Yes.
to provide a proposed listing of requirements. Are they going to give that to us, or is that at a later date?
It will come in front of the council at a later date.
Thank you.
Treasurer's been busy with preparing the financial town meeting, so it probably won't be until after that.
Mhm.
I did meet with Mr. Walden regarding it to get his input as well, so we did start it.
That was it, thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Warrants, payroll warrant number 39.
I make a motion that we accept payroll warrant number 39 in the amount of $38,335.05.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Payroll warrant number 40.
I make a motion that we accept payroll warrant number 40 in the amount of $35,100.21.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. General warrant number 17.
I make a motion that we accept general warrant number 17 in the amount of $87,738.33.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Old business, temporary emergency lighting for the townhouse. I happened to chat with Gordon Brayton at the Fisherman's Breakfast last weekend. And he said that the Old Home Days Committee has in the supper shed emergency lighting that can be plugged in and utilized at the townhouse. So that we won't have to have it entirely closed, won't have to have, people have a fireman present if we plug in those emergency lights there. In addition, Aaron Moslin spoke with the fire marshal at the state, and they seemed to think that that was just fine, and we would be okay with it. So I'm putting this in front of the council this evening. Since the council closed it, is the council willing to entertain allowing those emergency lights to be installed and opening that building up for use once they're in place?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question of where they would be upstairs, or would they move around?
Well, it certainly would be downstairs because it's dark down there.
Yeah.
Upstairs at least during the day. If there's enough, they could go in both places. I'm not sure how many they have. I'm not sure we'd have town meetings over there until it's repaired, but at least it would be accessible if necessary. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. I'll touch base with Gordy and let him know, we can take him up on that and see if we can get those things installed. Okay, old business police station building committee, asked to be put on the last meeting regarding parameters, regarding the mission statement, on a charge. So the chief provided this.
Thank you.
Some research that he did at other building committees. So, Mrs. DeFranco, you asked for this, or do you want to?
Yep. I was curious as to who wrote the mission statement. I would also like to add that open for discussion. Would you like me to make a motion?
If you like, sure.
I'll start with the mission statement, that we accept the mission statement as presented. Second.
Is there a discussion on the mission statement?
I don't have any.
Okay, I'm just gonna read it for the public, because I see some people asking. The committee is charged to evaluate, locate, design, and build a new police station that meets the needs of the police department, and that will serve the residents of the town of Foster. The station shall be constructed in order to provide a safe, efficient, cost-effective building that will consider both current and future needs of the town of Foster. Further discussion?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if part of the mission statement, I know they have a lot on their plate, but somebody ought to be dealing with what you're gonna do with the Ellsworth house if that isn't gonna be the police station.
Well, I don't disagree, but one of the things that they're gonna consider is whether it should be newly built, or that should be renovated or added on to, so.
I understand, but part of, if it's gonna be built or moved or anything, there's gonna be an Ellsworth house that's empty and still needs X amount of few dollars to bring it up to speed. So that might be something somebody might want to think about.
I'm comfortable letting that ride to a future date when we know a little bit more about what's gonna happen. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
I agree, I would I mean, I've been thinking about it and had discussion with a couple of people, but at this time, I think the police station is the priority at this time.
And I think certain considerations about the building could be relevant even under this mission statement. Maybe not identifying an actual end user or something, but things like identifying cost of repairs and considerations as to the building's worth would fall under this mission statement already. I would consider, though, just a few tweaks to the language for consideration. To say maybe that the committee is charged to evaluate and report back to the town council regarding or with respect to the location, design, and construction of the new police station. Just so it doesn't read as though the committee is actually charged with locating, designing, and building the actual station.
I don't know whether this would fall under it, but I did compose, like, the composition of the committee is to be, and I selected 7 members, 1 member from the town council, the chief of police, and 4 members at large, who said committee to be appointed by the town council and report back no later than October 28th, 2016. And I also was suggesting that the treasurer and the building and zoning official be part of it as a consult as a needed basis.
Okay, so can we deal with that as the second motion?
Sure.
After the mission statement? Okay, so evaluate, locate, design, and build. So you want them to say, it's charged to evaluate, locate.
Well, I'd suggested to evaluate and report back to the town council regarding the location, design, and construction of the police station.
I like that better if my vote counts.
Just going to write down to evaluate. To evaluate and report back to the council regarding location, design, and building of the police station. So then that's not really a building committee, that's more like a committee that is researching, taking needs assessment. It's then they report back, as opposed to a building committee, which actually take the project through.
Yes, that was how I envisioned it. I didn't think that the committee would actually oversee construction and things like that. I thought it would end with a suggestion or an array of suggestions.
I thought that they would come back with, this would be their first recommendation, their second recommendation, their third recommendation, and then we would go
From there.
from there.
That's what I thought.
And whether, once that's complete, we want them to participate further.
So I'm thinking of the building committee, the most recent one, which was the one at the school. And when they were appointed, they essentially carried the whole thing through from soup to nuts. Did they go back to the towns? Yeah, they had to go back to the towns. But there was, they had an issue with the folks from Gloucester, with disagreement. They had certain authority in the state law, which you assign a building committee of the building committee. I'm just trying to think it through. That's correct?
As far as the mission statement, should it say something about when they're evaluating and they're going to present for present and future needs? Because you are going to try to plan for the
It says
future.
It
Does
says,
it say that?
Current and future needs.
it does say that.
In my experience when I was on the building committee before, for the school, before this big addition, we went all the way through the frame. We started and we saw it all the way through the same committee, but had to make, had to go before the council and before the boards and present it and get approval to continue different phases.
Hmm.
So your experience on a building committee, this added clause would be okay? Or would it be okay?
Well, to report back, I think they need to report back occasionally, yes, different aspects of it. But I think the same committee should start it and finish it.
I think so too. I think once you appoint them, then they're gonna be the ones that carry it through.
But I do think that they have to report back to us
Yes.
Oh,
at various stages.
exactly.
I mean, are you thinking that they're gonna present to the special financial town meeting if needed?
But they want us,
I would,
Is that
I would think they would be involved.
involved in it, right, but
wouldn't we want to support them?
Okay.
Based
No, no,
upon
I'm
our
just
charter, you
thinking
can't
forward.
delegate any authority to actually make the decisions to expend funds, et cetera, anyone but the council.
Okay, so you made a statement, you want to make that as an amendment to the motion.
Well, I guess I would like to clarify, so, this is my 2 cents. I'm not familiar with many committees being involved in sort of the construction management side of something. And I'm not necessarily opposed to saying it up here, but I would just like to know that it's clear to everyone in the council that is the intention, to have a committee set up that actually oversees construction.
how was it posted in the ad? I don't recall. Will people that have already written their letter know that they're making that big of a commitment?
Yeah, it does seem like a big commitment, and also something that might be better left to professionals.
Well, that kind of excludes what we put out.
We didn't be hired to do it.
Yeah.
They should work with the building committee. Somebody should be overseeing that, and they should report back to us. That's my opinion.
But the builders would interact on a daily basis with the building committee. And the building committee would report back to the council, and they would handle essentially the daily basis. Okay, so what's your change in the form of a motion?
So then I would move to amend the mission statement so that it reads, "The committee is charged to evaluate and report back to the town council regarding the location, design, and building of a new police station."
Second amendment. Seconded. Further discussion on the amendment?
1 second, I found the ad.
Okay.
So the ad states the Worcester Town Council is requesting letters of interest for volunteers to serve on the building committee for a new Worcester police station. Members of this committee must be Worcester residents. Expertise in the areas of construction, electrical, plumbing, engineering, legal is desirable. Letters of intent must be received by the town clerk by April 15th. All applications received after that date may be considered at a later time if there are still vacancies. And then it says to send it to Jane. So it does say expertise in the area, but it doesn't say the duration
No,
or.
but it does say building,
Building.
specifically building.
And I think from the chief vet, right?
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure it didn't say, this is what.
for a finite time.
Yeah.
I think it's open to it. Comments?
I just, as far as expertise, how are you going to determine that? Is that someone who helped out building something somewhere sometime, or someone who has their own company and has licenses and so on and so forth?
They listed some of the expertise in the ad.
We'll have to look at the ones that apply. I mean, if someone has an engineering license, then they have it. If they have a plumbing license, an electrician's license, or a builder's license, then that's that. If they don't, they don't. I mean, we'll be assessing the pool of candidates.
So can you read the amendment to me again, please?
The committee is charged
Mhm.
to evaluate and report back to the town council regarding the location, design, and building of a new police station, ...
Yeah.
Nothing else changes.
Right. Okay.
Any further discussion on the amendment? favor?
Aye.
Aye. Back to the main motion. Further discussion on adopting this mission statement? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously.
Now would you like to discuss the composition of the committee?
Okay, go ahead. What's your idea?
My math was wrong. So I had said the composition of the committee is to be 7, but it's actually 6, but that's flexible. 1 member from the town council, the chief of police, and 4 members at large, with said committee to be appointed by the town council and report back no later than October 28, 2016, with the suggestion of the treasurer and building and zoning official as consults.
Building, zoning.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes,
I'll second that for discussion.
thank you.
Okay, so that would be six people.
Yeah, but those need an even,
That would be difficult.
yes, that's why I didn't put 7 in that. So is there somebody else that you
So
think?
just say 5 members at large.
Well, that was going to be my question. Should it be someone else that you think would be appropriate to be on the committee? Or
I think you asked for 5 members at large,
5 at large?
because I was thinking 5 to 7 members at large originally anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a 7-member
Man,
committee.
7 members.
Okay, so then that, you had made the motion, so there needs to be an amendment to bump it up to 5 members at large.
I'll amend the motion to add a 5th member at large.
Okay, is there discussion on that amendment? All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Amendment carries unanimously, so what's on the table is a 7-member committee composed of 1 council member, 1 chief of police, 5 members at large. Deadline for reporting back October 20th. And we'll get back on
28th.
that.
I gave 6 months from the date of appointment.
And then building and zoning and treasurer as consultants.
I think we should report back to the, so, please.
Well,
Is this
The
going to
only-
be a line?
Well, it has to be voted on one way or the other, whether it's a loan or whether it's a bond, does it come to the table here, does it go to
Right.
financial town meeting? It's gonna depend on what pans out in the process.
Not had periodically. I was just thinking the final, the final needs to be the 20th, so that because we had discussed last time 6 months for a special
I
financial town
think
meeting.
the representative from the council can report periodically as we meet through the 6 months on status moving
That
forward.
would be good. Right.
And the chief had his hand.
Chief?
Just one question, and it's been brought up before in reference to the building and zoning committee, or building and zoning official, but his limited hours, would that,
Well, he's as a consultant, not as a full member. So I think, when you're thinking of someone else instead?
no, again, we just talked about it previously, and again, it was brought up that he only works a little bit, and then, again, he lives in South County, and,
Maybe his
if he was part of the committee, he would.
his representative, like the electrical inspector or the
The worst
plumbing
time-
inspector,
The worst time getting them.
as need, those various inspectors.
Okay. I think he's probably the person, and you can send one of his other inspectors, as Mr. Franco said. Those guys are even less, they're even
Yeah.
less hours.
But they also live in town, so they may,
They don't know building.
I waited 3 days to my
But
home.
they-
They know electricity.
Okay.
Very hard to get.
suggestion.
They can email him though, I'm sure during business hours. If
Right.
they email him what they're looking for or questions, I'm sure he can get back to them. You may not have to
As
attend.
a consultant,
At
you
night.
have to really.
You want enough to have a quorum, because schedules diverge, you don't want to not have quorums.
Well, if there's 7, then 4 would be a quorum. So, Hopefully, all 7 will show up, but
Renee, can you remind me the restrictions on what can happen after a election of the town council before the new members are signed in? Are there limitations on the actions the council can take?
Just normal business.
So they can't, so could that council conceivably schedule a financial town meeting or respond or act on any of the suggestions that came? Because this is, I think, less
No,
than a
that's
week
close,
before.
yeah.
Yeah, between the November election and the taking office.
I would say the council that's sitting here now couldn't make any major decision,
Right.
you'd have to wait.
You'd have to do it between October 28th and Election Day.
Yeah,
Correct.
that would
Which
be,
is
Yeah,
tough.
which is,
that would
That's
be-
why I thought that this might be too far out. Because it really essentially throws it into the hands of,
And what if you did the financial town meeting on the 28th, and then when would you have to have, you'd have to have advertisement for how long? Could you backtrack?
I wouldn't attempt the financial town meeting to set the date now.
No.
You have no idea what they're gonna be able to do or not do. Majority of time, it takes longer than you think.
maybe
it's
we
gonna
should give them just like 4 months and see what happens. In 4 months, they'll make a report, and we can address it at that point. And then there's still 2 months to play with. It may be realistic, it may not.
So August 28th?
August 28th?
Well, that's my suggestion. That-
I think
Yeah,
that
that
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Are you gonna do that at a regular council meeting for them to report back, or any?
I don't see why not. I mean, if
Almost
they're
everything
ready.
they do is gonna be public,
Right.
so.
So is that a council
City.
meeting?
In August, the 11th and the 25th are to be normal council meetings.
So it's
All right, so I'll make a motion, an amendment to the motion, to change the deadline to August 5th,
Second.
2016. Discussion on that amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Okay, so a 7-member committee, 1 council member, 1 chief of police, 5 members at large, building and zoning inspector and treasurer as consultants to the committee. Deadline for report back to the council, 8/25/2016. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. I think that's that, yes?
Susan, would you want this?
Yeah, I love that. I was making my own notes, but I don't.
Scribble, rewrite, scribble, rewrite.
Thank you. If you can't read it, let me know.
I don't need to be named on the committee, but I'll tell you that I will try to make all the meetings, and if they need help, I'll do it right here.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. Council approval of criteria for World War II Memorial. Scott Knox is here to make a proposal to us this evening about a World War II memorial. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you.
I'll
make sure you get one. Yes, I was smart.
All right, very good.
I'm just gonna give you a couple of things on here, so if we start talking, you can just go on with it.
Thank you.
This is gonna be an example, of just so I can explain why the criteria is the way it is.
We can share. Have enough?
Thank you.
I'm going back up my drawings. I sat up here for an hour the other day and
Thank you.
Not bad.
I'm bad for us. So, my name's Scott Knox. I've lived in Forest County for 39 years. And,
How old are you?
39.
I'm coming to the council tonight to ask for approval for the criteria on a project I've been working on with many of the taxpayers in Forster to tribute the World War II veterans that are from town, here in town, with lots of experience. So I'll read the criteria first. And we've had a lot of help from preservation. Lynn knows that, I've been over there numerous times, they've helped me, unbelievable. And now it's at the point where we gotta go to the veterans themselves because of names, because of criterias that I Googled from other towns to find out why, and I'll explain my example later. So dear Forster Town Council members, I'm writing you to ask the Forster Town Council to allow the World War II Veterans Memorial, funded not by taxpayers, but by donations from the friends and families of the Forster World War II veterans, to be erected here outside the Eddy Building, where there is already a memorial. This will serve as an honor roll to serve the men and the women from Forster who served during World War II. The criteria of the memorial will recognize the World War II veterans from all branches of the military who had permanent residence and or were drafted or were enlisted of the dates during the World War II conflicts between December 7th, 1941 and December 31st, 1946. This memorial follows the criteria of other towns and cities in the state which have already had them erected, such as Johnston. And the one I gave you a picture of is one of the ones in Johnston. And those of the people in this room that know, I've been going back and forth with this, know why I did that. My grandfather was a POW in World War II, and I've been working with him, Henry Luther, and numerous other people. And I had an issue with people that had lived in town for a long time that I felt should be on those memorials. So that's when I backtracked. And I said, okay, let's, never mind the names of trying to figure out who lived in Clayville, who lived in Forster, who lived in Gloucester, that might have been in a picture at Moosa Valley or something like that. I backstepped and I said, okay, that person happens to be Dick Cowell, who was on the one that I gave you the picture of. Dick Cowell's lived in Forster for 50, 60, maybe more years. But the point I'm getting at with that picture is that Dick was already acknowledged on the one where he was drafted from, which was the town of Johnston. So now we gotta backstep to our criteria and say, okay, we gotta do it the same way. If not that they don't deserve to be on more than one, but we gotta limitations to the number of people on this granite stone. So what I'm asking for tonight, obviously, if you can vote on it, that there's going to be a granite memorial erected where there happened to be one in 1961, but nobody knows where it disappeared to. There was a wooden one right outside the door before they built the vault, which I have a picture on my phone, but I couldn't find one to print out for you. And it said honor roll World War II veterans, and it listed the names at that date, kind of like, probably like the one, I think that was 47. They were a lot of the ones around. I went to Sprague, Connecticut, I went to Johnston, Veteran Cemetery. A lot of them were done real early when the men and women came back. Lynn and Heidi have helped me with tax rolls, trying to figure out who actually lived in town, who didn't live in town, who got veterans exemptions. So we use that in the picture that most of you have probably seen to get them names and pick and choose. And actually tonight, John was very gracious to give me the one that was here, because I felt maybe it's going to be easy to eliminate people than to figure out people that were missing. So that was very helpful, and we'll get back on that. It will be a granite stone, such as, it's going to be actually black granite. I got some pictures, you guys. These were from Georgia. My mother and father traveled through, and I don't need to take up much more time. But it'll be a black granite stone with the embosses from Mercer Monuments, who I've been dealing with. The stone is black granite. I guess the biggest question is where we can put it, and I felt that where the Memorial Day Parade comes would be the place where it should be acknowledged, which is right outside here at the Eddy Building. I talked to Mr. Cardillo, because we know there's a water line issue. Somebody had mentioned it to me. There's somewhere out here, there's a water line, so we gotta play with it. Can I tell you we wanna put it right here? Not until I know where that water line is. But there will be no expense to the taxpayers. It's already, most of the money's already been raised and put towards the monument if we get approval for it. So I guess that's my
So you're looking for a vote from the council to approve installation of a World War II monument on the grounds right outside of this building, at the cost of the builders. You want us to approve your criteria as well? Is that what you
So
asking?
that's kind of, it's the same as what other towns and cities have used. I mean, I just changed Foster resident instead of Johnston resident.
Okay, and to
Obviously,
approve the
we can't say-
location and the criteria.
We can't say exactly where it's gonna be until I meet with highway director and make sure we're not gonna put it on top of a water line or, and he said that when we get to that point, if we get to that point, we'll worry about the exact placement.
But it's gonna be in this triangle behind us.
And obviously, those of you council members that I've talked to know that I have also gone way beyond. I've thought about Vietnam, just in case somebody ever wants to do anything else. And wherever we strategically place this, it will be in a position where it could be added on or moved at a later date if we got grants or whatever to do with it tomorrow. So we tried to step up and think about everybody, just in case there's another person in there that wanted to do it. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Scott Knox's plan and then allow him to move forward with it as presented.
Is there a second? Discussion?
And I just had an experience I had in Johnston. My dad, at 70-something, had lived over 55 years in Johnston. And he's included in the World War II one in the Memorial Park. And what they did is, the people who didn't live there their entire lives, but had been there for so many years, they put out an invitation to the families, and my siblings and I paid a fee to help, and it's like a brick and a thing in the wall, so we paid to do it, so you might want to just put out an invitation, because he lived there so many years, so his name is there.
That was kind of an option too. Those members that I did speak to, it's been tearing me either way, you know what I mean? Because if you look at the real early ones, they didn't have everybody. But for instance, the picture on this, the names on this back wall, if you actually go through them, we could add everybody in the state, because a lot of them guys are Gloucester, Situate. But that's why I wrote a criteria, because we gotta be able to put a line somewhere, if not.
But I mean, if you had a resident who's 80 and spent 60 years of their life here.
And that's where I was torn, that was my
Yeah,
example with Dick.
Maybe you can at least offer them the option.
Right.
The family can do it even once they're deceased.
Okay. Any further discussion? Alright, so the motion is to approve installation of the monument as presented, which means out here on this triangle behind the other building, and with the criteria that you set forth in front of us for determining the names. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. That's
Okay, moving on. We were supposed to have a superintendent presentation on the capital plan. but I don't-
He's
He's
here.
here! Okay.
Hello.
Presentation on the capital plan at Payne School.
Give you a quick minute so they can come around.
That's it.
So let me start by saying, and then I'll walk you through a couple of things on the plan very quickly. But let me start by saying is I'm going to be asking you to support the plan in principle, and then to really confirm some actions you've already taken. And I'll give you a little more specificity of what I'm looking for. But in this 5-year plan, this was a plan that the school committee put together in regards to the housing aid regulations. And this is part of the process we use to seek state aid reimbursement for capital projects. As a part of that requirement is the support of the community, and that would be the town council. So we had previously gone before the planning board and shared the 5-year plan, working with the town planner and Kelly, looked at some financing. The planning board made a recommendation to the town council, and you all chose to move forward with the items which are in the first column. If you're looking at the plan that's in 2016-17, you see there's a heating system in the first, so in that first column, there's a heating system. Below that is replacement of some bookshelves that surround the heating system. The other 11,000 was for ADA compliance, and then the 3,000 was below the threshold, so that was taken off the plan. So the school committee is still moving forward on those. The heating system itself was a 2-year commitment, because the overall project over those 2 years to replace the heating system and to replace the bookshelves that surround those vents was a little over $500,000 between those two projects. So as you move, you can see the totals down in the bottom column. So you've already included into your budget for next fiscal year that you'll be putting before the vote is the heating system, the bookcases, that's part of the capital project, and that cost is being shared by the school committee, the town council. We're using some fund balancing, some other sources. So ultimately, by making that commitment, you're really committing to 2 years because you're not going to do half the heating system. So in essence, you've already made that decision to move forward with the heating system and those items on the first column. And over the April break, we will be doing the field that was the $3,000 item. So specifically, when I looked back at the minutes that prior to that process, the work sessions don't contain minutes, so I wouldn't necessarily be able to document the items that you've already done. So for this evening, what I'd be looking for you to do is support this plan, basically approve this plan in principle. I know you can't commit to councils 5 years down the road, but approve this plan in principle, and then just confirm that you're working with the school committee and the town council jointly working together to fund the first 2 years of the plan, which basically you've already done by including it into your budget. And then for the years that follow, we recognize that it'll be the town council and the school committee working together to determine whether or not we have the ability to fund those projects in years 3, 4, and 5. So basically what I'm seeking for you tonight is to approve this in principle, to confirm that you're working with the school committee to provide the resources to fund the first 2 years, and that we'll just look at the plan annually after that to determine the town's and the school's ability to pay or fund it. Now defer to your legal counsel as to whether she feels that's appropriate.
We can do it.
All right,
It's
I
kind
guess
of- We don't have a choice the way.
I can take notes here and then formulate a motion.
Okay?
I make a motion that we support this plan in principle to include the 2-year plan moving forward for the heating system and the things mentioned above by working with the school committee jointly.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? So, is that motion satisfied with any?
It would be approving the plan in principle, and you're committing to the first 2 years, and then annually, if you wouldn't mind, council member, just like annually, the last 3 years will determine the town's and the school's ability to fund the plan. We're not committing to doing it, we're just committing to looking at it.
Immediately moving forward to
Examine it.
examine it in the following years after the two, to continue to work jointly
That makes sense.
for the common goal.
Okay. Who seconded the motion? Who seconded? Okay, seconded that motion. Okay, now, just so everyone knows, this formal type of motion is required in order for the school to access the housing aid from the federal government.
Correct, from the state.
Done in the past. How come we never did this in the past?
So there was housing aid, there were regulations that were passed by the state of Rhode Island about 6 years ago. Then they put a moratorium on school construction. So school committees, other than emergency and safety repairs, the State Department and the legislature are not approving any capital projects for schools. Now the governor put forward her money last year, and her plan is to work on schools, so about half the school districts in the state have put together these 5-year plans to submit, but there was a moratorium, that's why people weren't necessarily going through this process.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this in principle and examining it as we go forward, working with the school committee?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all for your support.
Okay. Okay, next item, bid opening town hall carpet replacement project. So we have 2 bids. This is to replace the carpets on the town clerk side of the town hall. The first bid is from Dominic and Sons Floor Covering, Johnston, Rhode Island. bid amount $6,150 even. $6,150. Second bid is from Ujiri Carpet One. Cranston, Rhode Island. $6,924.43. $69.24.43. Okay, those are the only two bids. I'm gonna give these to my deputy town clerk to distribute. Can I have a motion to refer them to DPW director for?
Make a motion, we refer the two bids to the DPW director to determine which one is the decision.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Contract approval for statewide bridge ends treatment project. So we have in front of us the contract from State of Rhode Island through the Department of Transportation. It is accessing federal funds, and they want to do some work here in the town of Foster on some town bridges. And in order to do that, they want us to sign this contract. So let me just describe what they're talking about doing in the town. It's on the very back, page 404. Central Pike Bridge, the covered bridge, they want to install guardrails. They're going to be timber guardrails, so they match the flavor of the bridge, and some signage installation, one-lane bridge, things like that, yes?
I believe they currently set up to date that they cannot use timber, but they will be using, they sent us a picture, something that is a nice color, has a nice appearance. They sent the DPW a picture, I know that, but it's not timber.
When did that happen? Because we had a conversation with them.
Did they change it again?
They said that the new law wanted them to install metal guardrails everywhere.
And they were painted, is that the painted ones?
Yes.
Dark, lighter brown?
Painted, right, they were
Okay.
metal painted to look like wood.
There was not enough space, they said, between the wall and the front.
Yes, and they said that they recently have done a project with wooden guardrails down in Jamestown. It was requested by the people in Jamestown. You can drive through 138 between the bridges.
This might have been a
it's
little
all
bit
wooden
after that
guardrails.
when they sent me, okay.
And what they said is based upon that, they can make an exception for this covered bridge. So
That
that's,
must be even a little later than.
I do have a question, though. My husband has a question. so
Yes.
I guess I will let him. He was part of construction of the bridge twice.
yes,
And the second time, there are guardrails, timber guardrails that are evidently at DPW that were supposed to be installed. Are those the ones that they're going to install, or are they providing us with different ones?
they're providing us with different ones. The ones at DPW, I don't think meet any kind of code.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the Central Pike Bridge. The second, North Road Bridge, removal of an existing guardrail, installation of new guardrail, placement of millings, clearing, grubbing, installation of signage and striping. So striping they're talking about is on the side, not down the middle to make lanes because it's not really wide enough for 2 lanes, but on the edges.
We're on North Road, because there are two.
There are two.
They're right next to each other too.
Yeah,
I think they're
One near
between
Dixon's
Dixon's
and then-
house and
that nice
Foster
house that I
Center
like.
Road. The nice house.
That's clear, the nice house, the nice house that I like.
Yes.
They can only be in your head.
It's right there, it's on the right side from the right. It's right there at the White House.
But there's two,
Yes,
and they're gonna do both.
okay.
So there's 2 North Road bridges. Mill Road includes installation of signage and striping, again on the edges, And Windsor Road Bridge includes installation of new powder coated guardrail. This is the one that you were talking about, Renee. It's the metal, which is
Yes.
coated with powder.
Yeah, light brown or dark brown
Is
option.
that the new bridge?
I don't think so.
North Road, they said North Road on
I
one.
don't think it's the new bridge.
Bridge
There's another bridge further on. But all the maps, the DPW director has all the maps and all the indications where they're gonna put those. So this is at no cost to the town. The state will pay for all this using federal funds. What do we need to do afterwards? We're committing that we'll maintain what they install. We'll maintain the guardrails, maintain the signs, et cetera, subsequently. So if you want them to do this, they are asking us to sign this contract. I asked the solicitor to review this contract. Have you had an opportunity?
I did, and I spoke to the director of Public Works and asked him if there was any material or man-hour constraints that he couldn't fulfill the contract, and he said no, not to his knowledge, even though they're all sick right now. They're hoping to come back, so.
And are these things that we're required to do anyway?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them we're required to do. So if they don't do it, then they got to.
The covered bridge guardrails are horrific. How there has not been an accident.
I don't think they hold the car back.
No.
Mrs. Ryan?
When they talk about signage, do they mention anything about the red, green, and white reflectors that they seem to love so much? On,
Red,
are
white, and
you-
green.
Huh?
Red, white, and green.
No, only because obviously on Route 6, at the beginning of the guardrail, then when the guardrail dents in a little bit, it's a different color, and then it's again on the other side, when it's out, it's a different color.
They didn't talk about that.
But-
There is a plan, you can see that the DPW director has it, it shows every sign, where they're going to strike, where the rails are going to be. And the initial plan actually came to us about 6 months ago, and there was more signage than we were comfortable with. And I've sent them emails, and Joe Cardillo sent them emails, and they pared it down. So there's a revised plan that everybody can take a look at. And I'm sure they'd be willing to work with us a little more.
It's going to maintain the covered bridges.
Well, that's why they initially had the covered bridge with metal guardrails, and we contested that with them, and they conceded to do the wooden guardrails. So, I think as much as possible, it was a wooden bridge with wooden rails.
And they pared down the signs as much as they could,
That's my concern, is that.
in size and in number,
Mhm.
and I kind of like the red, white, and green up and down. It's a lot. It's
Like a seizure.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the council?
I would make a motion that we have the council president sign the contract for the construction and maintenance of the statewide bridge and treatment project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Do you have the original?
I have extra copies for signing in case.
Okay, so
Assuming that
let me
was
put
it.
these here, we'll finish them, and I'll sign them, Renee, and we'll sign them, we'll do that after we're done.
And thank you for jumping in there with DOT, it helps.
Okay. Next contract, addendum to the fiscal year 2015 through fiscal year 2017 solid waste and recycling services agreement. This, actually, the front page is an email, the second page is a cover letter, and the third page is the addendum to the contract of recycling. And what this does is it alters the fees for disposal of recyclable waste. It adds language regarding tires, mattresses and box springs. We've changed some of these things due to state law, so we have a contract. but the state law has changed, making clauses in the existing contract no longer valid, and this is what's replacing it.
And frankly, with these things, there's not a heck of a lot of choice in the matter. There's not a lot of choice, it's basically that we have to comply one way or the other, and no one has come up with a better method yet. And you see how they separate the mattresses out from the tires.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I was hoping Mr. Cardillo would be here. It says on the page where it lists the addendum, it says a fee of $175 per ton, or a fee of $5 per, or a fee of 10. Are we to agree upon which or do they decide which or?
I think they decide, if you're giving them one tire, it's $5. If you're giving them one truck tire, it's $10. If you're giving them a ton of tires altogether, a mass, then it's.
So it's their decision by what we bring forth. It's
Yes.
not our decision that, okay, we're gonna hold these tires until we get 500 tires.
I think it's our decision whether we hold them. We could hold them until we get a ton.
Okay.
And dispose of them a ton at a time to get a better rate. But if, it looks to me like if we bring them less than a ton, they're gonna charge us per tire.
Okay. That was my question. I was hoping Mr. Cardillo would be here to ask him, what is our general, does he have any idea? How many mattresses do we get in a year? Because we certainly don't want to be storing mattresses
We
at
have
the
a- We
DPW.
have a dumpster over there.
You ready to run?
Right, but how long do they,
Yeah, I'll bring
how
the truck
quickly
over.
do they fill up and what's next?
Oh, no.
Right, so I was wondering if he had an average. or-
So there are, I don't know the the state is gonna be charging a lot for the mattresses disposal.
Mhm.
So what we've done is we've switched over to a company called Mattress Recycling Council, MRC,
Mhm.
and they will take them for much less if they're recycling them. And there's criteria, they can't be torn, they can't be left out in the rain, soaking wet, they can't be all stained with blood or anything like that. If we can, it happens, right? Mattresses take a lot of wear.
So basically, do we have an option to not make this motion?
Do we have an option? Sure, but that means they're not gonna take out.
Right, so basically, we have no option. So, yeah.
They're basically just letting you know.
Letting us
Yeah,
know.
you're gonna charge.
And if you sign it,
It's getting very, very expensive.
Buying a mattress for somebody to take a little mattress away.
We need to encourage people that if you get a new mattress, have the furniture people take the old one.
Yeah.
That's just what I.
If they do that, then
You know what
it's-
else I read during the investigation of this that was interesting? I'm not sure about this. I'll have to test it out. But it says that you can take your tires back to where you bought them, and they have to take them because they have already charged you.
Yes. Yeah.
Very interesting to think about. I'm sure they're gonna wanna refuse them, but they've charged you when you bought them.
Well, they put them on.
They're supposed to be taking
They
them
put them
back.
on.
They're gonna charge for it.
I always put them in the
Very
trunk of
interesting.
the car that I'm trading in.
I think they will probably try to give you your deposit back or any fee that you paid and you're done with it, but.
So I will make a motion that we accept the addendum to the fiscal year 2015, 2017 solid waste recycling service agreement as presented.
Second. It's been seconded. Further discussion?
Yes, I just had just a point of interest. I noticed that it was emailed to Mr. Rogers on the front, along with Jane. I'm wondering if we need to make some sort of correction to them, that it's no longer Mr. Rogers. I'm thinking that it was sent to you as the former council president. So maybe it needs to be sent to either Mr. Cardillo or Mr. Lewis. Don't know if you noticed that, Gordon.
No, but there were times I saw my wife's name come up on a few.
It's time to.
So it takes the state a while, or actually, this isn't the state.
I have from RIRC, I have Joe Cardillo on the list.
He's on the list here.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
This was printed by Jane Christopher.
Sarah
Yes, I know, I
Reeves
saw James.
sent it out, so, went to Joe at least,
We can let them, I mean, we can let
if
them,
that happens.
send it to
Mhm.
Jane and the Public Works Director. Should-
That was just something I noticed.
Okay, so we haven't voted on that motion, have we?
No.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries unanimously. Yes.
Mrs. Bevelak will remind me of something. Recently I read where you also, when you purchase a mattress, you automatically pay a $10 disposal fee. So I would think in theory, you could take your mattress
Most of
back to
them-
where you bought it.
Most of
you're
them
not-
will take it when they,
They'll
When
take
they
the old
deliver
one.
it, they take
Right.
the old one.
But if you're,
Where you
you
want.
know,
They have to at least give you a deposit back.
right.
I'm sure they don't wanna take the mattress, but they're supposed to, I think.
But if you pick up the mattress yourself and to avoid the delivery charge, then.
Right, but then they should, if you do that, then you should be able to
Drive
trade.
the other one back.
Right.
Okay, the last thing, resolution opposing House Bill 7985, low and moderate income housing. Mr. Rogers, you asked for this to be on, do you want to address it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read this letter that was in front of us tonight. I don't know, has anybody absorbed that? It pertains to this,
It does, it's the
second paragraph.
The second paragraph, this is taken from Gloucester Town Council's resolution in opposition to a bill up at the House right now that would levy fines against towns who haven't met low and moderate housing
$2,000 per each unit below the 10%
per unit.
mandate on a fiscal year basis or a calendar year basis, which could effectively put a financial strain.
Sure. So this is essentially exactly the wording from the Gloucester resolution. But the second paragraph, whereas the town of Gloucester currently requires 10% of the housing units in new developments to be priced and categorized as low and moderate income housing. That may be something that Gloucester does, it's not in any of our ordinances, that's what the letter says. So if we were to adopt this, we shouldn't adopt that second paragraph, we should eliminate it.
It's different.
Something like that.
So, I don't know if anybody, does anyone want to read this excluding that second paragraph and get it on the table?
Should it say, and just a grammatical, it should say the Forster Town Council supports
It should,
instead of support.
I have that note, it should.
Okay, so this is resolution of the Forster Town Council, subject opposition to House Bill number 7985, low and moderate income housing. Whereas the Forster Town Council supports the concept of establishing a goal for a percentage of the housing units in the town be classified as low and moderate income housing. And whereas the town of Forster does not have municipal water and sewage facilities, which reduces the opportunity for the construction of large multi-unit developments where low and moderate income units could be incorporated. And whereas a very high percentage of new home building permits issued in the town of Forster are for individual residences that do not lend themselves to be constructed and categorized as low and moderate income type units. And whereas the Forster Town Council believes the penalty as outlined in House Bill number 7985 of a fine in the amount of $2,000 for each unit below the 10% goal is inappropriate and places an unfair financial burden on the taxpayers of Forster. And now therefore be it resolved, the Town Council of the Town of Forster opposes House Bill H7985, amending current legislation regarding low and moderate income regulations, and urge our local legislators to oppose this bill when it comes up before the House, and our senators should a companion bill be presented to the Senate. This resolution was read and approved by the Forster Town Council on Thursday, April 14, 2016.
Second that.
Okay, so that was in the form of a motion,
Yes.
seconded? Okay, the only thing I want to say in the discussion is in the final paragraph, now therefore be it resolved, in the third line, It should be and urges with an S, not and urge. Should be, urges our local legislators to oppose this bill.
Yes.
It's just a spelling thing, I don't think we need to make a whole motion on it. Discussion?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes, sir.
one thing I heard in that proposal is, whereas most of the houses built in Foster are one-family house, well, they know that. I wouldn't put that in here. That's why they're encouraging this fine. So you want to tell them what you said in the first place, you agree with it, you've made proper zoning preparations for it, but telling them, whereas we build one-family houses that don't fit their need, too bad.
No,
I wouldn't put that in.
That's not what the intent.
What the
Well-
intent was, we're not,
I know what the intent is, I know what it
there's
hurt.
nobody coming to town building multi-unit houses. That's what that means.
I know.
Nobody's coming forward
All
doing
right,
that.
I just made a statement.
Because we're doing single family, doesn't lend ourselves to the.
He's right in the way it's redundant, but I mean, the issue is, there's a reason that they're single family, there's a reason that really you need 12 acres sometimes because of the wetlands to build a single family house, which almost nowhere else in the state. So.
I do have a question, and I don't know if anybody has the answer to it, but it does state on page 5 of the act, that this act would encourage those cities and towns that have failed to meet their low and moderate housing unit minimum goals to meet those goals, and would establish penalties for failing to meet those goals. Would also allow those municipalities to have, that have met their goal, to sell their excess
Credits.
housing unit credits.
Yeah.
How much are they gonna charge?
It's like a carbon tax.
Right,
But not less.
to underperforming affordable housing unit communities. So we could purchase from Providence,
Yes.
That's
and
what
how
it
much
says.
do they charge, how much would Providence, or is the
Probably
city
less than what
itself?
the penalty is just to sell.
That's what it says.
And
not
how does
less
that
than
help
1,000.
us?
Yes,
Right?
So if we can sell,
It
if we
doesn't
can
help.
purchase them for less than the fine, we save money and we're in good shape.
But still.
And who authored this bill?
I bet you what cities they're from.
Do I need to guess?
Probably guess, Central Falls.
Did
No, you don't know it.
Representative Warren, Casey, Carson, Phillips, and Malandano.
Okay, Mr. Rogers, you asked for this. Does this language as proposed satisfy?
There was a motion made.
I know, I just was asking him because there were comments from the audience to amend that one.
And again, that was sent to me from Gloucester, that one of the fellow town, basically the same makeup, because it gives more of a bite when they get it up there, that you've got several rural towns that are against this. So,
Any final discussion?
I was thinking it might be useful to add, maybe, well, it wasn't in Gloucester's, but the town of Gloucester, where it says, whereas the town of Gloucester does not have municipal water and sewage facilities, adding in public transportation or universal high-speed internet access.
Well, what they do is they'll actually, we used to have more bus stops out here than we do now.
Right.
Once-
We don't have-
Oh, yeah.
Well, they can add them very easily.
But, even, John just raised something, what about the fact that a lot of our land has been taken up by Providence Water? I mean, that's something that we wrestle
Well,
with
and
anyway.
also the
You got
Providence
watershed,
Water
like nowhere else.
encourages low density development, that the
I
entire
mean, they're
state's
taking
land-
away, the land, more of our land to do things on. So we look like we may be 56 square miles, but we're not, because they have taken up, I don't know how much land, so that we can't build at all. I mean,
But, because if they hadn't, I'm sure we'd be welcoming the housing development.
That's not the issue. The issue is, we're not 56 square miles, we're 56 square miles minus Providence Water,
Yeah.
and where they tell us we can't do anything, that's a lot less to work with,
Mine is 2,200 acres basically.
wetlands.
Do we want to say anything about whereas we have Providence Water?
I think it's sufficient the way it is. I mean, they're gonna know we oppose.
I don't think you need to add it, It's there. They know that.
They know.
They know Situate has that, they know.
Are we ready to vote?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. There's a list of future agenda items, we have some things on the 28th, public hearings, bid awards.
I did hear from, Mrs. Spector from the town of Gloucester, that their council, 4 of their council members are available on May 26th for that joint meeting.
About the resolution we tabled, correct?
About the resolution, and that's one of the dates that Kelly had given me that she was available,
May 26th works for you?
and that's also one of our council meetings.
Mr. Bonds, you want to write that down, because I think you want him to be present.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't see you there, Mr. Bonds.
Yes.
It is interesting that Foster sends all kinds of resolutions out about the region, but never writes the region that they're sending these resolutions out. And you think they want us to be there while they're talking about us, but, you know,
May I address Mr. Sabathia?
sure.
Well, you can't say shit. I did, when I spoke to Mr. Steer in regards to this, I mentioned that you do attend our meetings and that you would most likely like to be present as school committee members, and they had no objections, not that they would. And so, therefore, May 26th, I'm going to call you tomorrow and let you know. Now
Okay,
you're here.
so that's already listed as a future agenda item, we'll just append the date, May 26th to it.
And I will let them know that that works, that they wanted to know if they would be on the agenda, so I will let them know.
There's no need for executive session this evening, so I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.